Hey everyone, welcome to my Module 15 case study. I'm Kelsey Rook and this is for AEP 858, July 2017. Alright, so what do I know? Truman Elementary has a fairly diverse population. It said about 5% of the students at the school speak primarily Spanish at home, and we also have a fairly large reduced and free lunch student population. That would be at 15%. So fairly diverse students of different backgrounds. Student achievement in reading is decreasing from grade level to grade level, and each year there's a growing gap. So students are obtaining a greater deficit each and every year when it comes to reading and writing skills. And parents have come to the administrator concerned that their students are not gaining the skills needed, and parents are concerned that that will affect their kiddos as they go on through the educational process. After getting the parent concern, I, as the administrator, asked the reading supervisor to observe teachers in the classroom and see what their instructional strategies look like. And the reading supervisor has reported that some new instructional strategies need to be implemented. There's not enough time being spent on reading and writing instruction. It's whole group instruction, so everyone is getting the same information whether the students are advanced or strongly below grade level. And they recommended that something needs to change. What do I need to know before I can make a full, well-rounded assessment about the situation? What were the state scores in reading for the last 2 years? What do those look like? How have we created that deficit over the 2 years? What specific skill levels and skill areas are we lacking in? Are any of the teachers trained in phonics that could help be a leader? Sometimes teachers have strengths that we don't necessarily know about as administrators, and sometimes we forget to ask what their areas of expertise may be. Did this trend begin before I became the administrator here? Is this something that's been happening longer than 2 years? Is it something more recently since I took over as being an administrator? And are the teachers aware of the declining skills? I know, like in my school, we don't look at state test scores as departments, and as an English teacher currently, I feel that this is something that's important, and if the teachers aren't aware that the skills are declining, how can they make a change themselves? Problem identification. Obviously, students are not receiving differentiated instruction, allowing them to prosper and grow at their own individual level. Data is clearly not being analyzed and used to drive the instructional needs and address the gaps and weaknesses. Parents are concerned. That's always a huge red flag. And the use of their reading specialist or reading coach is not apparent. That is evidently a resource that the teachers are not utilizing fairly frequently. So I have 4 plans of, well, I have 1 plan of action, but 4 different steps. So first, I would meet with the parents in the parent-teacher organization to hear out their specific concerns. What are they seeing at home that their children are lacking? What are some things maybe that their kids have said that they're not good at? What are their concerns individually? And this would definitely be considered perceptual data, which can be included in the quantitative data of the student achievement and testing scores. I know earlier in this course we discussed perceptual data and how it can be applied to quantitative data to make a well-rounded experience. But it's also important to make sure that your parents feel included and create that open door policy, because it's their children that are lacking the skills. And in order to have a successful educational experience, everyone needs to be involved. My next step would be to meet with the teachers to see what their perception of reading and writing instruction is. What do they think that their students' strengths are? What do they think that their students' weaknesses are? As teachers, what do they think their strengths are in the instructional process? What do they think their weaknesses are? And once again, ask who may have a background in phonetic instruction, someone who feels really strongly and passionate about it, and that they could help be a leader to increase those skills within grade levels. My third step would be to sit down with grade level teams and look at student achievement data on state assessments, and we would disaggregate the data for specific students to look at a multiple tiered support system, MTSS. That is something that leads the way for differentiated instruction. How many students you have at a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Level 1 is your lowest level, and that's where you want the smallest percentage of students. Level 2 is a bit of improvement. Level 3 is on grade level, and level 4 is above and beyond. So after hearing about this case, reading about it, I think most of the students at the school are definitely sitting at a level 1 and a level 2. We might have a couple at 3 and 4, but we definitely want to bump those level 1 and 2 kids up. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that they are getting differentiated instruction and maybe smaller group instruction, not all whole group, to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And address areas where there are gaps and areas of strength. We don't want to look at everything that's negative in this. We definitely also want to focus on what are we doing well? What are our students doing well? How can we also build on those things? That way they don't create a deficit in those areas. My last step in my plan of action would be that after looking at all the data specifics, discussing it with the teachers, apply for that grant for extra funding. And with this funding, we could have professional development on improved instructional strategies. The reading specialist did recommend that there be a strong emphasis on professional development in creating better instructional practices and strategies when it comes to reading and writing, and maybe discussing that MTSS instructional strategy for small groups to help students where they have deficits. But we might want to bring in someone who's very proficient in that, and that of course requires some funding. And take some of that funding and invest in a newer research-based curriculum to prepare our students to be 21st century learners. The other thing the reading specialist recommended is that we don't have a current curriculum that 100% addresses every state standard. So we need to look at that, and unfortunately that usually involves some money to be invested in that process. Promoting student success. In this process, students will be receiving instruction based on their needs. That is crucial to address the gaps and weaknesses. If everybody has the same gap, great. We could do more whole group instruction, but it looks like everybody has some different gaps. Everybody learns differently. Everybody's better at different things. Everybody, has weaknesses in different things. Teachers will be better informed about data analysis and will hopefully use it in their instructional planning. It sounds like they don't look at data very often to help drive their instructional planning. They're just going through the process, pushing the kids through the system, which goes on to my next point. Students will build on knowledge each year instead of being pushed through and ignoring the fact that there are deficits. So it will be a building block system added onto each year. My personal thoughts, I thought that this case was totally relatable. Not enough time is spent on differentiated instruction, and it's crucial to student success. That is happening within my own current workplace. In my educational process, sometimes I felt like I wasn't receiving differentiated instruction. I know I really struggled in math, but I was given whole group instruction K through 12 and not given additional support needed to help build those blocks from year to year. In Kansas, with budget cuts, funding for new resources is not always available. This is why grants are amazing. I know at our high school, we just applied and got a grant for MemBean, which is a differentiated instructional resource to help teach our kids vocabulary and build on their vocabulary skills. And definitely need to approach this situation as a learning opportunity for everyone. That would be parents, teachers, students, myself as an administrator, to ensure that no one feels attacked. Maybe teachers had no clue that students had these deficits, so you can't go in there assuming that they knew this and that they just didn't care all along. Some unresolved issues. Hopefully teachers will be open for change. I don't know what teacher in the world is not in the teaching profession to do what's best for students. That is the main thing of our profession, is to do what's best for our students. What new resources will we need to help our students grow? There would have to be some research done, and definitely some collaboration with our grade level teams and the reading specialists to help decide how we would spend that grant money to improve our instructional strategies, what resources have found to be the most beneficial in other districts that maybe have the same issues that we're having. And then the biggest one, what if we don't get the grant? That would be then when we retool what we're doing, look at maybe free resources that are available, things like that. How am I being an agent for improvement as the administrator in this situation? By addressing parent concerns and involving them in the process of change, that is huge. Always want to involve your parents no matter what, because you should have that open door policy, because they are just as responsible for the kids as you are. It's a give and take. They spend time at home, they spend time at school. So everybody's involved in that educational process. I looked at the suggestions of the reading specialist to help students improve and definitely took those to heart when making my plan of action. And by asking teachers how they feel about reading instruction and how their strengths could be used to help lead the way for change, makes them feel involved and that you value their leadership qualities, which doesn't always happen, but should, because they deal with the students each and every day. Data application. By looking at state assessment scores to see where strengths and weaknesses lie, that will help decide what resources we need, what resources we don't need, and how to integrate those into a new program, if you will. By looking at specific students to see where they need help individually, will help build that MTSS program and see who needs level 1 instructional support, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Obviously, level 1 will need the most instructional support. And by integrating parent perceptions to help lead the way for change, you're getting a well-rounded picture with everyone that is involved in the education process. Educational knowledge. By looking at the curriculum standards and taking the advice of the reading specialist that they need to be revised to ensure that we're following state guidelines. That is a state law. You have to follow the state standards when it comes to education. So we need to make sure that our curriculum is aligning with those perfectly. Our student and building achievement might not align with the new CASA regulations for building improvement each year. I know that we're moving away from AYP, adequate yearly process, over to the CASA program. And what might the repercussions be for not advancing each year? I don't know a whole lot about the new CASA and what will happen if we're not showing improvement each year, but that is definitely something that needs to be considered in this process. Communication. By having an open door policy, you're making everyone feel heard and that their opinion matters, especially when it comes to our students. That goes hand in hand with not dismissing parent concerns. A lot of administrators don't think that parent concerns are important, but they definitely should be considered. And by utilizing a specialist to help transform our reading and writing program, we're bringing in someone who has deeper knowledge on this subject than maybe most of us do, and that will improve our students' knowledge and help us help them better. I hope that this addresses a lot of the concerns in the case, and I really learned a lot and I really enjoyed looking at this case. It's different than the others since we are focusing more on data and how to integrate that into a situation. That is my Module 15. Have a great day!